Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Cedrus Knowledge Series. We started the knowledge series in the middle of the pandemic, and it's been close to 4 years where we have successfully been running the monthly knowledge series with one speaker each one, and we have spoken on variety of topics, right from investments to the human well-being. Uh, from last month, the change which we made, and that is more to do with the way uh, the world has evolved, is from the virtual mode. Now we have shifted to the physical mode. So going ahead, we will be having one speaker each month, but it will be on as a format of a podcast where we'll be physically meeting our speakers. Uh, since the last decade, India has witnessed a consumption boom, and that's more to do with the rising demography, the population, as well as the rising income levels. Today, we are going to talk about specifically on the rural economy and how investors can benefit from the rural boom which we are seeing in India. To talk more about it, we have Mr. Chanchal Khandelwal. He manages the Aditya Birla Gen X fund, and we are going to talk more about specifically related to the rural economy and how investors, the equity investors, can actually participate and gain from the rural boom which we are seeing. Welcome to another edition of Cedrus Knowledge Series. It's a very special edition because till the last almost 45 episodes which we have done from the middle of the pandemic, this has been the first episode where we are calling a fund manager, not virtually, but physically. So
It's
we are
my
having
pleasure to
contact.
be here. So nice of you to
Thank you
invite
very
me
much.
here. Thank you.
It's very interesting. Last 10 years, we have seen a huge consumer boom in India, and that's more to do with the demographics, the population. We have the largest population, and you have certain anecdotes which you keep talking about,
Yeah.
related to the population, as well as the rising wealth, the income
Sure.
levels which is there. So I came to a point where I just thought that why not talk more about discuss more about rural consumption, and specifically rural means even tier 2 cities,
Sure.
actually, where I'm sure we are from the mutual fund industry, and the largest growth which we are seeing is from tier 2 cities, in fact.
Sure. Yeah.
So today's topic is actually more around rural consumption and patterns which we are seeing in tier 2 cities,
Sure.
in fact.
That's an interesting
So
subject.
my first question to you is that one, what is the difference between the urban consumption pattern and rural slash tier 2 consumption pattern which you're seeing? And could you elaborate more on, how you feel this area will grow?
Sure. Firstly, thank you for inviting me, and it's my pleasure to come and do your first series with you. And you've taken a very interesting topic, and as you said, last 10 years was about consumption. But my belief is next 20, 30 years is about consumption. Consumption journeys India is just starting. If you talk to any global giants who are big in consumption, in fact, I was sitting with one of them last evening. He said, as India hit that $2,500 per capita income, I'll accelerate my spend in India. Because global pattern is as $2,500 per capita income increases, people just splurge on consumption. Literally splurge on consumption. That's where the consumption habits in India will start. And as you rightly said, India is about two India. One is a rural India and the other is urban India. Urban India would be 60, 70 million people, or the top end of the urban India, which has a per capita income of $10,000 plus. But rural India is where the mass of India lies, where
Mhm.
60% of Indians lies. And those people are going to slowly come to urban India in the next 20, 30 years. And their consumption will start even further from what they are consuming today. But since you spoke about rural India, let me give you a few examples to talk what's happening in rural India. Today, India population would be 144 crore. 120 crore people Indians have mobile. Now, what
Mhm.
mobile does, a 3G and 4G penetration of mobile makes them very aspirational. Today, what an eye consume, they are able to see. And not just see, even order in platforms like Amazon, Flipkart, etc. Those platform services more than 15,000 pin codes in India. So
Mhm.
today they have become so aspirational that all these 15,000 pin codes are being ordered. They're going able to log into the website and order there. The consumption pattern, if I take a step back and go 10 years back or 15 years back, was different. But today consumption patterns are almost similar with where the income level has reached. Where the
Mhm.
income level has not reached, they are being fed by content of YouTube. They are being fed by content of a lot of things which is happening in R, and they are very aspirational. One of the companies which all of us have seen create huge wealth has been able to catch up this consumption theme of rural aspirational India.
Mhm.
Now, this company says that people aspire to buy good quality uh, textile, good quality shirts at a very aspirational price in a good environment. And they went aggressive in store opening. And that's
Mhm.
where they've been able to capitalize. So rural India is 60% of Indian population, where per capita income would be less than, say, $1,500, but their aspirational level are as high. And today, after Modi 3.0, Modi has realized that he did little lower for rural India, and that's where I think this government in the next 4 5 years may do a lot of things from rural India. We have seen already the MSP increase which has happened. We have seen there is a good monsoon which is there, and we have seen some spend on rural India. So that means that rural consumption, which was not there in last 2 3 years, will bounce back.
Mhm.
And also, I mean, next if I talk about next year, 1 year, the number of marriage days is very high, and that's
Mhm.
where rural consumer will do very well, because we know everyone, be it urban, rural, they spend in marriage. Marriage is very important occasion for them to spend. So rural consumer is just starting to consume. They will start with FMCG, then move to two-wheeler, and then move to aspirational level as a car,
Mhm.
etc. So I think rural India is just starting to consume, and it will go on and on for at least next 3 4 decades.
Wonderful. In fact, what you just mentioned, and that is the second question, which I was going to ask you, specific to, you have seen a big boom in the last 10 years, and that's not to do with governments, but it's more to do with our demography. Okay, so we have a young population. Average age is, I think, about 28 or something,
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, and they are aspirational, in fact. But recently, what has happened is like what you just mentioned is we've had a very good monsoon. And in fact, last 4 years we have had good monsoon, and definitely India lies in rural. In
yeah,
fact, India is actually rural India. So monsoon becomes very important. We have had a bumper monsoon this year. Uh, and second thing is, like again, what you mentioned is that Modi 3.0 is talking about more about rural focused, and the budget which we saw was quite rural focused, in fact. So could you let us tell us that how this is going to benefit the tier two cities, the rural India, how it will benefit, in fact, these two measures.
sure, interesting. So as you rightly said, India is young, and being young, you catch on to trend very fast. India is young. Young means you're aspirational. You want to work and get good job. Modi 3.0, Modi realizes that the most important thing in India is to create job. And that's where in the previous avatar, PLI scheme came in. PLI scheme is focused on creating manufacturing job in India. Today, I was just reading, I come from a small city known as Jamshedpur. Today, I was reading an article which talks about Hosur, which is very close to Bangalore, being as big as Jamshedpur. A lot of electronic manufacturing, a lot of things which Tata as a group is doing is going to come up. The reason of giving example is that PLI will create a lot of job opportunity for rural India. Rural India is what? Where 25 30% of people are in the agriculture income. The agri people will benefit because of increasing the MSP prices. MSP prices is one thing. Second is good monsoon, and third is the improvement in fertilizers. because now they are aware of which fertilizers to use when, thanks to the telecom boom, which has helped them through YouTube and through media penetration look at what to do, when to do. And that's where rural India is all about. If I divide India into, say, top 10 cities, which is more urban and metro linked, their consumption pattern is different. But going beyond top 10 or top 20 cities, their consumption pattern is different. But today, if I talk about, say, the largest QSR chain, they are opening up in beyond the top 200 cities also. They say that if I open beyond 200 cities, they're aspirational to come and consume a pizza, which is big. That's where the pizza consumption is happening. And they're saying we're not seeing any slowdown here. Talk about the largest jewelry company of India. They are going beyond the top 100 cities. Talk about the largest automobile company of India. They are saying that tier 2, tier 3 cities is there where the SUV demand is very high. Why this? Because in rural India, the roads infrastructure is improved and people want to buy a bigger car because again, in rural India, normal average people would be 6 or 7 in a house. And that's where the SUV culture has started. So what I was trying to say is that the rural India theme is just starting, and that's where the rural India can play out. The other thing which would be, which I just highlighted, air condition penetration today in India. Today AC penetration in India is very low. In a country like India, where Modi in last avatar talked about the electricity for all. Today, all the villages with population of 1,000 plus would have at least a bulb, and that's where the electricity penetration is going to increase. Today, the AC penetration is less than 15%, and when rural India starts consuming, realize the importance of air conditioning, so consumer durable as an industry can catch up. A lot of themes which can catch up in this 2 to 3 decade, and that's where I think rural India will catch up.
Well, I think we have now come beyond roti kapda makan.
Yeah,
and I think India has become more aspirational. We're talking, about aspirational investors. People who want to go beyond this, in fact, and improve their lifestyles. Now coming to specifics, actually. So, which sectors you feel specifically would benefit from this boom which we see?
sure. That's an interesting question. In fact, the sectors which first comes to mind is FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods. Now, FMCG, the penetration of the category has happened, but FMCG can be divided into two parts: food and non-food. Now, non-food, obviously, the penetration has all, people are using soap. You said roti, kapda, and makan. It's beyond that. People are sabun, tel, shampoo. Everyone is using it, but people will use more. Number of time they're consuming may be less, but number of time they'll consume will become higher. Plus their aspirational level from moving from a soap level 1 to a better soap, that will happen. So premiumization as a trend, plus more consumption of FMCG will happen. That's on the non-food category. In food category, people today consume loose food, because they were not packaged food available. Today, as they see more of YouTube or more of awareness or more of aspirational, the packaged food industry in India is going to boom, and that boom has just started to happening. So that's one big trend of food and non-food in the FMCG space. The other thing is two-wheeler and the car penetration. Today, the car penetration in India is very low. As the roads improve, as their per capita income improves, the first thing they'll go and buy a car. The largest car companies would benefit out of it, and then they will uptrend and increase their car consumption. So automobile as a sector is the second big thing which will move. Third is a building material, cement and building material is a space. Because when you earn more, मकान बना लिया बट अच्छा मकान बनाएंगे, मकान में भी हम ज़्यादा खर्चा करेंगे. सो मकान के अंदर जो खर्चा करेंगे, right from lighting to paints to consumer durable, so what you can spend within your, in fact, a lot of companies I meet, they say the demand in tier 2, tier 3 cities are much better. Because people like you and me stay in a 2,000 square foot house. It's costlier to get a better and bigger house in a top 10 cities. Whereas if you talk about people, aspirational people or people who can own a bigger house, and that's where they spend a lot of things inside the house, right? From better paint to better lightings, and that's where these building material companies are benefiting. So first thing is FMCG, food and non-food I spoke about. Second, automobiles I spoke about. Third, building material I spoke about. And the fourth is the banking penetration also is slowly going to go up. because people in the past had that phenomena, and our parents rightly taught us we should not leverage much. But today people are realizing, if I have to live for 60 years and I want to buy a car today because I'm 28 or 30 years and I want to travel in a better car, I can't buy a car with my money. But today I'm getting a loan. I can buy a better car, I can buy a better house, and I'm discounting my next 30 years earning and buying a better car. So that's where the financial penetration is improving. Lastly, I think financialization of India is also happening. People are also buying better insurance, and you people are doing a good job to ask them to start saving. Saving in jewelry was always a trend in India, but now people are moving from jewelry to equity as an asset class, and that's also a trend. Some things are catching up in rural India, but that will slowly and gradually catch up.
No, one more thing which I wanted to ask you, it just came to my mind right now, is how much is this digitization and e-commerce and this linkage of the money which can flow now and has impacted the rural patterns, which is basically the digitization of the banking space, in fact. So your UPI and everything.
Yeah,
it's
that's
become
an interesting
easier.
thing. Yeah, it's become much easier today. Modi 2.0 and Modi 3.0 has spoken about having everyone have a bank account. And today KYC has become, it's a matter of 5 minutes or 10 minutes where your KYC can be verified. And that's where digitization of financialization of the country is happening. And once you have a bank account, once you have a history, either because you have a bank account or you have a wallet. The wallet is also happening, create a history. What kind of money I'm getting. A typical Kirana store or typical pan store will have a history of what kind of money is earning on a monthly basis. On that basis, a bank or MFI or a small NBFC is willing to provide him a loan. And that's where he's able to leverage to grow more. And that's the journey and culture which is starting. So a KYC and someone who is able to know who this guy is, either through his Aadhaar number or through his PAN card number, is able to give him more loan and he's able to leverage and grow. And that journey in a smaller way is happening in India. And I think financialization will play a very important role to accelerate the journey.
I think cash to digital economy is definitely going to help the rural economy specifically. Actually, you run a very successful strategy, the Aditya Birla GenX Fund, and it's been more than a decade. I think this fund has been there around. Could you tell us more about this fund, what your strategy is, and how do you really manage this fund?
Sure. So this is a B2C fund. When I say B2C fund, I mean India is all about consumption. 144 crore Indians. We added one Indonesia in last 7 years. Since COVID, we would have added Malaysia and Thailand. So that is the kind of population we are adding to India. And we believe that, and we discussed during our conversation, average age of 28, aspirational India, and the B2C theme is just started. So anywhere where brand plays a role, where consumer wants to go and spend, that what's come in this theme. So we straddle across 16 industries. We have all the winners in these various industries, and that's why what we like to capitalize on this fund. So right from a FMCG to a automobile to a banking to a hotels to a airline to a cement to a real estate to a NBFC or to a mutual fund to a insurance, we can play in this theme. So anywhere where people from the age group of 28 to 40 would go and spend, and they are aspirational for a brand would come in this theme. The best part is we are very particular on what kind of companies we buy in, or this company should be having a strong moat, or should have a strong cash flow generation, or should have a strong longevity of growth. Most of the people are not able to invest in this theme thinking that these are high P. Obviously, these companies will be high P because you are buying a lot of future growth. As India becomes from 28 to 35 to 45, that's where consumption will happen and that's where growth will happen. So I believe the journey has just started and this fund will continue to do well for next 2-3 decades because this is a great theme because this is about India. This is about B2C in India and this theme is just started. And the best part is we are very focused on what kind of businesses we own. We look at good businesses, then look at the strong management and then valuation comes in. So we use a VMV approach to buy any stocks in this fund. And that's where we have a consistency of performance. I'm happy to be a Rahul Dravid and be consistent. And that's where I focus on this fund.
No, I think one more very important differential between this fund and maybe the funds of similar category is that you're basically looking at the age bracket of 28 to 40, and that is the reason why you have this name, which is a very tacky name called Gen
Gen
Next.
Next, yeah.
Okay, which is the average age of India, and you are actually only focusing on sectors around this particular age, which is what I can understand.
Exactly.
Right? So you have a lot of digital companies, e-commerce companies in the portfolio. How is it actually?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think if you take up post-COVID, a lot of digital companies got listed, and the best part of digital companies is their growth is normally they accelerate the growth very fast, and if they are able to convert a habit, that habit stick on very fast. For example, today you and me, if we have to travel, we will look at Ola or Uber in the car. If you have to order food, we'll look at 2-3 app to order. And that trend which they spend on changing the habit, that trend is very sticky. And once you have a mobile as an infrastructure, and you are so catchy to that trend, and if you open that app, whichever that app is, once or twice a day, think about the amount of eyeball that app is having, and think about the amount of ad spend that app can generate. Think about the amount of growth in various verticals that app can generate. So I think that those themes will also play a very important role. And as you rightly said, this theme has huge future. So if you can get the theme right and get the right company to invest in, there's a great amount of wealth to be created in these kind of new age company, and that new age journey is just starting to happen in India.
And can you invest in unlisted companies also, or only the listed space?
No, as of now, only the listed space.
Because I see a lot of e-commerce companies, and
Yeah.
a lot of even like what you just mentioned, new brands emerging in clothing and in FMCG, which are not listed, but are growing, in fact. So that's the reason why I asked you, in fact, that so you are in the listed space.
I'm in the listed space. The best part of capital market is that with huge amount of SIP flowing, a lot of unlisted company will come in the listed space and will get the opportunity to participate. I hope the capital market, and the journey has just started. Pre-COVID, the SIP book was how much? 8 to 10,000 crore. Today we are talking about 20 to 30,000 crore. And maybe a decade from now, we'll talk about 1 lakh crore SIP book. So that's where India is. And India will keep surprising you, because the average age is 28. We are aspirational. We want to grow. If we have a job, if we have a see in the future, and if our neighbors are doing well and we want to do well, we'll do well. And as Modi ji keeps saying, our ingrained culture is about growth and inherent growth in India, and that's where we'll go to.
It was wonderful. We got to know about the consumption patterns in tier 2 cities in rural India, and that brings a lot of confidence that this is not the end, but this is just the beginning of what you can see in the maybe a decade or more of growth in the consumption space specifically. And I think again your talk about the Gen X fund, how is it different from the other peer group funds which are there, and how it is running, in fact. So I'm sure the investors are going to benefit from this specific things which you have just mentioned. The last thing is any takeaways or anything what you would advise investors if they want to approach this space, in fact, what kind of an allocation they should do, whether they should do in a SIP form, and what they should look at when they are investing in a fund in a consumption space.
Sure. Well, good point. I mean, you've got the theme right, and the best part of this theme is this is an ever-growing theme, and I always believe in SIP. SIP is the best way to invest in, because you and I, no one can time the market, and if you consistently allocate money to a fund, whichever fund you choose, your money will grow. Hopefully, you choose the right theme and the right jockey to bet on. I always believe that, and that's where the fund your money can do as good, and because you want your money to work as hard as you are working. But the best way, I think, is to invest through a SIP, invest consistently, and keep allocating as you become. The point is that people forget that they start a SIP and they forget. But once you start a SIP, maybe 3 years from now, you need to increase the SIP. 5 years from now, you need to increase the SIP because you're also growing and your money should also be working as hard as you are earning. So you should always be increasing the SIP allocation, and at least 15-20% of your fund, I think, can come to this theme, because this theme is about India, this thing about next decade. And that's where, and plus the best part of this theme is, if you pick up, we've done one analysis, if you pick up any 3 month in a rolling 5 year return, you would have made money in a decent way. So the best part of this theme is that if you allocate consistently, and if a new investor comes in at any point in time, and if you start investing in this fund, you will be happy over longer term. So 15-20% of your fund coming through SIP, give it a longer duration, and I'm sure you'll be happy investing in this theme and in this fund for sure.
I'm sure, and the way you've seen the mid cap rally, the small caps, they're more expensive than the large caps now. And there is a little bit of discomfort which is coming from investors also on the valuations. In fact, I think this can be a very good defensive theme to be in, where at least we have visibility of growth.
Yeah.
Okay. Compared to maybe manufacturing or infrastructure and all the other categories,
Sure.
where the visibility is there, but the valuations are already rich.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas a lot of stocks in this specific theme, be it private sector banks, FMCG, they have not rallied actually.
Yeah.
They have not seen the kind of rally which we have seen in the equity markets, in fact.
Sure.
So thank you very much, Chanchal, for taking time out, and it was a wonderful discussion. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you. It was my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Nice
Yeah.
talking to you. Wish
Thank
you
you.
all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.